So, how many people had the Clippers winning this one? I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure in the Kawhi video I was like, yeah, their chances against the Jazz are pretty damn low, or I might have said they had no chance at all. And sure, it's 3-2, the Jazz still have a chance, but man, if you were waiting for that just scrappy Clippers win where it looked like the chemistry was great and everybody was on the same page and the ball movement was good, and here you go. Here's your game. I feel like this is the game we've been waiting for the Clippers to play for like 2 years now. And the fact that it happened without Kawhi, I don't know. That's basketball for you, especially on today of all days. Paul George, of course. The shot making. He scored a lot in the first half. Not as much in the second half, but he had that huge mid-range over Royce O'Neal where he fouled him and he had to like sort of double clutch in midair. He had a step back three over, I think it was Ingles. I could be wrong on that one. That was in the second half. And he had a lot of really good passes. He had a number of plays where they brought two on him and he just made the play to the next guy. He had one where he threw like a behind the back pass in the middle of the double team to I think Patrick Beverley for an open three. It might have been Terrence Mann. He had a number of passes out to shooters when Gobert had to commit to him. Not that they all went in, like Beverley missed one corner three, Batum missed a corner three. But still, PG was just keeping the ball moving around, and he had the free throws late, of course, and this is definitely one of Paul George's best games. I don't know if it's number one. Not that I know what number one would be off the top of my head, but it's certainly up there. But of course, you got to look at Reggie Jackson. You've got to look at Terrence Mann. He had the dunk on Gobert. Mann had a big three. Reggie Jackson had that one contested shot he had where it looked like the possession was dead, and he was like struggling just to get a little bit of space on. I don't remember who it was. I'm doing a bad job with remembering the defenders, my bad. But it was that shot at the top of the key. He had at least one other shot where he got the Gobert switch, and then I think he made a shot over him as well. And also, I want to credit Batum a lot. Morris was good as well. Kennard was good, but I think Batum has been kind of the unsung hero for the Clippers in this series. He had 7 or 8 rebounds tonight, and they're not playing a center, so that's pretty damn good because Gobert is in there all the time. And I think Batum is just doing so much on defense right now. I feel like his rotations and all that, they're just so good. I don't remember to look at him every single possession because it's tough to notice that and watch the ball all the time. But whenever I do choose to notice Batum, it's always just like, oh, he's always in the right spot. He's always making the split-second read and all that. And speaking of the Clippers' defense, in this one, it was a lot of switching on the ball, which did force the Jazz to take some contested jumpers. Clarkson had some. Donovan Mitchell had some late. I think their percentage from three overall was still good, as it is every game. For some reason, they just never have a bad shooting night like that. But still, their offense was not clicking the way we've seen it click throughout this season, earlier in this series. They also brought double teams on Mitchell later in possessions, which was something that has been a thing throughout this series. They leaned into it, not super much in this game, but just enough, I felt like. They got lucky with some misses. The Jazz didn't make every three, so that was good for the Clippers. Gotta assume Mitchell is hurt in some way. And now to think about Gobert, because I imagine that's going to be a talking point, and it's always the most important thing to me on how you score on the Jazz, right? So before it just becomes Gobert sucks or whatever, there was still a good amount of possessions in this game where the Clippers had to pass out of something because Gobert was just going to block the shot or whatever, That said, I think the Clippers have definitely figured him out a bit with this small lineup. They're spacing the floor out so much, and there was a Batum three where Gobert was just kind of caught in no man's land because he's just, do I step out to Batum? Well, I don't really want to do that. I want to stay around the rim. So there was that. There were a number of plays late. There was one wide open Reggie Jackson three. I believe it was Reggie Jackson top of the key, where there was some initial penetration and then, Gobert commits and it's like, well, he just can't run out fast enough. This is not a problem when the opposing team is playing a center, but with no five, it's like, well, if Gobert's not going to run out to the perimeter, somebody's open for three. I know that was a very basic basketball statement, but That's just how it is sometimes. And as far as what the Jazz can do to counter that, I don't know. I mean, they're not going to pull Gobert. The only thing I can think of is that the rotations just need to be so good that you've got 4 guys defending their original guy, but then the guy who has now been left open from Gobert being in the paint. That, or you just hope that they play Rondo a lot of minutes or something. I mean, one thing we've seen the Jazz do in the past, like back when they were playing the small Rockets, is that they would put Gobert on Westbrook and have him sag off in the half court. Well, you can't do that against, like, PG. I mean, he's just going to rain threes on you all day. So I really don't know. I mean, they brought some double teams, and again, Paul George's passing and the Clippers' passing overall was really good in this game. So I don't know. I don't know what the option is, but obviously Gobert's not going to sit. Besides that, while I think the Jazz offense was still good overall, the switching, a lot of stuff definitely bothered them. And I would like to think that they just have some counters to that. I mean, there's slipping the screen, so have Gobert come up and then act like he's going to set a screen and just dive to the basket, trying to get the Clippers caught mid-switch. You can also try some off-ball action and see if you can confuse them on, are we supposed to switch this stuff, and maybe you can get some cutting off of that. You could try having multiple screens on the ball handler. Just something to make the Clippers be like, oh crap, well, do we switch this or do we switch this over here, you know? But if it's just going to be a screen on the ball, they switch and it becomes one-on-one basketball, well, I think you're helping the Clippers out at that point. That said, the lack of Kawhi is still huge, and while the Clippers have given themselves a 1-game buffer, it's still going to be difficult to do this sort of thing again. And maybe even if they play as well as they did tonight in a future game, they just can't get enough buckets because they just can't. I don't know. I mean, Reggie Jackson made some really tough shots. Terrence Mann was big. Morris was big. And it might be too difficult to do this again. But Paul George, if he's still able to create and just make the tough shots he was making in this one, then maybe they can do it again. The last thing to think about is Mike Conley, and I don't know, man. I mean, if it's been this far and he can't play, it's kind of tough to think that he'd really be able to go at this point. I mean, you never want it to be like an AD situation where he's out there and clearly should not have been out there. So we'll see. The other thing is Mitchell, of course, too. I mean, if he's not going to be 100%, then there's that. But yeah, man, Clippers 1 day away or 1 game away from the conference finals if they can do this again.